So again, good morning, good afternoon, even to all of you joining us from various parts of the globe. My name is Malwina Buldys, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our panel discussion, Unlocking the Future, Best Practices for Integrating Gen AI into Your Organization. Generative AI, or Gen AI, as we often refer to it, stands at the forefront of technological evolution, pointing to a new era of innovation with the potential to transform every aspect of how businesses operate. From reshaping corporate strategies to redefining leadership paradigms, Gen AI is not merely a tool, but it's a catalyst for comprehensive transformation. However, as with any significant shift, the journey towards fully integrating Gen AI is infused with challenges. And organizations worldwide, particularly large multinational corporations, find themselves navigating a quite complex landscape marked by employee reservation, escalating implementation costs, the rapid pace of technological advancement, integrate decision-making structures, and security requirements, just to mention a few. So in today's discussion, we delve into these multifaceted challenges, and our esteemed panel of experts will explore strategic adaptation, frameworks, ethical considerations, and innovative best practices essential for weaving Gen AI into the very fabric of multinational corporations. Let me, as we prepare to dive into today's pressing topics, allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists, each a luminary in their field, bringing invaluable insights and experiences to our discussion on Gen AI. First, we have Andy Beach, the CTO for Media and Entertainment at Microsoft. Andy spearheads the technical strategy and vision for transforming media businesses through innovative cloud and data AI solutions. With a career spanning over 2 decades in digital media, Andy has mastered the art of melding technology with creativity, driving business success in the modern media ecosystem. Andy, we are thrilled to have you here. Next, I'm excited to introduce Tara AJ. Tara is a fervent GI evangelist. Her portfolio of 15 years uses state-of-the-art technologies, and she assists a rich pool of stakeholders and companies, including NASA, the US Army, Air Force, Google, and others. Tara's passion for Gen AI is unmatched, having led a team to create an innovative Gen AI platform and product in record time, 48 hours. Her pioneering efforts didn't stop there. She developed a strategic go-to-market plan for this solution. She's also a Google certified for implementing Gen AI with Vertex AI. She's an AI boomer, executive AI advisor, marking her as a true leader in unlocking Gen AI full potential for both organizations and the public. Tara, welcome to the panel. Joining us as well is Ricardo Minari, the Global Partnership Director at Ateme, where he is at the forefront of revolutionizing video processing and delivery using Gen AI. With over 2 decades of experience at the nexus of technology and innovation, Ricardo collaborates with industry giants such as AWS, Google, Microsoft, Ateme to spearhead digital transformation initiatives. His commitment to fostering a culture of continuous learning and innovation is truly inspiring. Ricardo, it is a pleasure to have you here. And last but certainly not least, we welcome Francis L. Hello, a visionary AI consultant and the founder of AI Ritual. Francis brings to the table 24 years of leading-edge experiences in driving digital transformation and technology adaptation. His work focuses on empowering government institutions and private enterprises through responsible AI, offering technical training sessions and providing executive consultations to harness AI technology's full capabilities. Francis, we are delighted to have you with us today as well. So with this stage and our esteemed panel, today's discussion promises to be enriching and enlightening. So let's begin by exploring the initial challenges organizations face in this journey with our first question directed to Andy. Andy, What hurdles do MNCs face in encouraging Gen AI adaptation among employees, and what are the best practices for ensuring a smooth transition and creating long-term cultural shifts for success?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's probably a good area to start with. I think we said it right at the top of this before we even introduced ourselves. Everything is changing so rapidly that it's incredibly hard to sort of disambiguate for even an individual the rapid change in what is occurring with generative AI. And so I think for any multinational company that's trying to tackle this right now, it's cultural and technical hurdles. You have to sort of just have a mindset around embracing technology and innovation, but that means a lot of responsibility and education for the employees who are going to be using the technology around what are best practices, what are new and innovative ways you can adopt it, but what are the guardrails as well? What are the safety things? We've already seen a number of cases publicly where uninformed employees accidentally use AI that they've created with personal accounts, and they've uploaded intellectual property from the company, not realizing that because they hadn't changed some settings, that IP is now in the training model for the technology. So there are guardrails and there are ways to protect yourselves against that, and there's guidelines you have to provide. And frankly, if you don't provide a path for, as a company, for your employees to test and evaluate and work with AI technology in a safe way, they are going to go around you and try and find ways to implement it, because we're all currently trying to wrap our heads around this. So I think it's that educational element that comes into it, demonstrating leadership around the importance of it, and being transparent about how you see it impacting their work long term, because it will change roles. It's not going to replace people, but it's going to augment and change the types of work that they are doing. And that will require that educational element on multiple stages, both what the technology is and what the implications of the technology are beyond that. I think giving them a feedback loop is the last piece. Being able to provide a single point where they can communicate either gaps in features, misunderstandings, or new elements that they are thinking about and wanting to try, so that a plan can be made around how new technologies get sort of cohesively rolled out in an inclusive, sort of adaptive way.
Thank you so much, Andy, for shedding a light on the adaptation challenges and the strategies to navigate them. And yes, it is clear that fostering a supportive culture here is a key. Now turning to Tara. So let's discuss another critical aspect, balancing the financials. Tara, how can MNC balance the cost of Gen AI implementation with the risk of falling behind competitors?
Yes, thank you, Malwina. And many of the leaders, including Bill Gates and Elon Musk, have stated that this AI revolution is one of the biggest revolutions. And adding to what Andy mentioned, that it is evolving at a rapid pace. So it is critical that organizations take a strategic approach than a tactical approach or working in silos, and to leverage experts, because there are machine learning engineers and researchers that have been working in this field for about a decade. So getting their opinions and acting based on that will also be important. And to invest at the foundational level, just repeating the point that it's evolving at a rapid phase. So when you have the strong foundation, it will be easy to build on, let's say, a platform and build products on top of it, rather than getting it piecemeal from here and there. Smaller organizations, smaller startups, which are not set up to scale just yet. And this will be important for the larger organizations. So that's point number one. And the second one is to start small, to do tests and POCs, pilots, and testing the success of those initiatives before moving on to the large organization and rolling out bigger implementations. Even in the interview by Sam Altman with Lex Friedman, he said that one thing they got right, OpenAI got right, is to test and fail fast and learn from it. I think that is one of the reasons why they sort of just exploded. And the third one is to partner with small organizations. And this is particularly important for larger organizations because it's harder to move. The larger the ship, it's harder to maneuver. So as did Microsoft did, and they did really well, is to partner with the OpenAI, and the cost of failure or the reputational risks are much smaller in that case versus the larger organizations doing experimentation. The media eyes are always on them, and it's a bigger risk. And I will give a bonus point, which would be a recurring theme, which is adaptability. Adaptability and flexibility are key.
Thank you, Tara, and very insightful points on the financial strategy and particularly on prioritizing investments for the maximum impact. On a related note, Ricardo, the decision between centralizing or decentralizing aspects of the AI and business transformation can significantly affect an organization's agility and efficiency. Could you share your thoughts on this?
Yes, I am the small guy here, let's say. So Ateme has like 700 people. So it's not like big organization, but we always need to do choices because we don't have that deep pocket that all these big guys have. So when we started talking about this, I remember when I visited one time when my son's in school, and I saw something interesting because in the past, all the students were looking at the teacher and the teacher was centralizing everything. But when you go to the modern school, they put the children in groups. So they put the teacher in the middle, they put the tools, they put all the stuff that they need to use, and then they let kids play. They put that, and then you see some miracles happening with a lot of creativity and a lot of stuff. So we decided to do the same in the company. So we centralize it was top down. So I made ethics, strategy, tools, database, all of this, we centralize it in order to make it more cost effective and more controlled because you need to put also security there. And then at some point, you just let kids play. So we decentralize it, made this balance, and let our kids play. And then you start to see very nice things happening. So HR doing their bots to talk about benefits with the employees. You see the guys from inventory doing inventory routing. You see guys from engineering using GitHub Copilot in order to make a little bit more code. So you start to see things happening. And as Tara said, you start small, you test, you fail, and you repeat it until you get it to a deployment. So this kind of a routine, this kind of thing is happening all the time. And as soon as you ensure that when you centralize your let's say, everything when you centralize secure and very well trained to your guys, you can let them and you see the magic. This is more or less how we do to balance between centralization and decentralization on AI in the company.
Thank you, Ricardo, and your perspective offers much food for the thought, especially when the children are being involved. And it perfectly segue into our next question for Francis. Not every company is ready for or capable of a full cloud migration yet. Francis, in your view, how can these companies still leverage the benefits of the Gen AI?
Thank you. Even though some companies may have cloud distributions, they might want to maybe steer away from paying extra expenses for those undertakings. So it might be a good idea for all kinds of organizations, whether they have the resources for cloud or not, to start thinking on the local realm first. Let's see what might the use case be. Where would this technology produce the most value for their operation, for their teams, and then see if cloud is needed at all. Sometimes you can just deploy your solution without needing cloud. That said, it's not an on and off switch. There's a very wide spectrum of how deployed could you be or do you need to be on a cloud. There's different kinds of clouds. You can start with maybe a small model running on a local computer or a local server, then some kind of setup behind the firewall that could act as your private cloud. Or maybe you can use some resources, like computing resources, from one of the giants, from a big cloud provider, let's say to do the training, but then the agent could be deployed locally. So you can choose how much and how far do you want to go into a cloud deployment, or maybe even not at all, even though the resources may be available, might just not be needed.
Thank you, Francis, for highlighting innovative pathways for companies outside the cloud to embrace Gen AI. Ricardo, coming back to you with a focus on operational excellency, should CIOs lean towards building in-house AI capabilities or consider outsourcing to navigate the complexities of Gen AI?
Yes, in this take, as I said, as a small company, we need to do these trade-offs every day. But we go more or less the same way we are used to do. And I think that is like the basic administration tells us to do. So what is core, we do not make it with third party. We do it, let's say we do in house. And what is not core, we tend to do a third party. So as Andy was telling in the chat, we have a lot of people working with small experiments on AI. So obviously that if things are nice, we use it, what is built internally. But for sure, we will not do our own bot. We will use our Copilot or any other solution that can build the bot. But maybe we would work to do a WhatsApp interface to this bot. Everything that is core, we are a video delivery and video processing company. Everything that is core, we definitely do it in-house. So for example, today we have a lot of engines that go inside of our products in order to enhance the performance of video encoding, reduce the bandwidth of video delivery. All of this we do in-house. So for example, when you go for Netflix and you see your video, as soon as you start the video, you see that the image is not that good, and then it starts to get better because you have a lot of layers of quality inside of the video, and you need to transmit all of these layers. And maybe you have like 10, 12 layers being transmitted together. And that sometimes at some points in some place, some of these layers were never used. So when you have artificial intelligence calculating and analyzing this spectrum, you see that you could cut some of this layer and reduce bandwidth. So this is intelligence. This is engines and intellectual properties that we have on our own. So we have like 70 patents, not most, but big part of them related to AI at this moment. So this is how we do this trade-off. Everything that is core, we do in-house. We have like 350 engineers working on this. And everything that is not core, or that is, for example, to empower the employee, or we take this small experiment and go after it, enhance it, and deploy it in the company, or we will hire, we'll subscribe. It is a software as a service. But this is the framework we use in order to define if we will buy or if we will do it.
Thank you, Andy. And yes, the balance between developing in-house expertise and leveraging external partners is indeed a strategic calculus here. Thank you. Speaking of the strategic decision, Andy, turning to you again, selecting the right tools is pivotal for accelerating digital transformation in a secure manner. Could you recommend some enterprise AI tools that align with these objectives?
So before I even sort of recommend tools, Microsoft has a set of responsible AI principles, which are really all around, they sort of summarize to fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. You can tell that I've had to talk about those a lot because I can rattle that list off now without even having to think about it. Beyond any tool you pick, those principles should guide your assessments of it. Is this a reliable service? How is it deployed? Where is the data being used? Where is the data being stored? How is data exposed to it? How am I connecting to it? How do others connect to it? All of those elements need to be in place, both from a technical and a secure requirement, in order to sort of meet the ethical standard that you want across the board. So sort of before you even get to the individual tool pieces, and Microsoft has a plethora, as do the other hyperscalers out there that are emerging, you want to make sure that it has the identity and security pieces that any enterprise solution you're going to go deploy has as part of it. Just because that the technology is rapidly changing and innovating doesn't mean that we ignore fundamental engineering practices as part of the deployment. We have to have that in place, and that will sometimes slow down the train of new AI technologies that come in. But I think if you ultimately select those tools and if they embody those tenets, the organizations can then be empowered to go leverage it, and they, more importantly, they can trust it within their ecosystem when they go out for it. So at Microsoft, I'll just sort of pivot and say that that's just my general view, whoever you're working with. Then within Microsoft, we kind of put it into three different categories of tools that exist. And you know, when I say there's not one AI at Microsoft that you're going to come by. There's no AI SKU that you're going to go pick up by itself. But there's sort of three categories of things that exist. There's sort of pre-built items, and those are almost always the ones that you see listed as Copilot. So if you're on a Windows machine, you've got M365 Copilot built right into the operating system. If you're using Office tools, you've got Copilot built into every application that you're using, including Teams and others. Those are just things where you're really buying an application or a service, and it's got AI built into it that allows you to connect and use it better. It's really just another UI for it. Then there's a whole series of pre-trained models that do a variety of select individual functions. Some of those are generative AI in their nature, like our Azure OpenAI services, which are our productized versions of the OpenAI trained models, but they fall within the Azure identity, security, SLAs, all the other things I just talked about. And these are things that you can go use to quickly build an application for your workload and go deploy it. But you're not really training any models or doing anything wildly special. You're just taking something off the shelf, applying your data with it to go create an AI experience. And then there's the far end of that spectrum, which is all of the tooling that exists on Azure to go build and train your own large language model or your own small language model, the ability to go fine tune existing models that we have made and turn them into your own models. So all of that lower level AI ops and deployment pieces also exist. So those are kind of like the three buckets that then hundreds of applications and functions and services sit in on our side to help you select the right level of detail and granularity for the function that you need to go build for that part of your business.
Thank you, Andy. And yes, technology is indeed a great enabler when wisely chosen. On the topic of wise choices, Francis, maintaining client confidentiality is paramount in the digital age. How can organizations ensure this while implementing Gen AI solutions?
Thank you, Malwina. In fact, Andy has touched on this a great deal. We do need to just first start with the basics of cybersecurity and make sure that this is one side of the technology, and just look at it like any other side of the technology that we've been using, and follow the basic best practices. But beyond that, I can think of three major ideas. We can always bank on federated learning, where we can learn from a model that has already learned some. So we might not really have access to the data, or whoever we're working with might not have access to the data of our customers. So we can implement a layer in between to kind of extract some patterns from the data that we already see, and then maybe learn from those patterns using something else that couldn't see this data, if that makes sense. The other principle is to use only what you need. We might have, extensive databases and sensor data and log data and all kinds of data, but we might choose not to use all of it for that one specific task that we're trying to complete. We could choose to just leave some of the data out because it's not relevant. The parts that we're going to need, we might obfuscate some fields in them, or replace the data with something different, something random that's not true, that could not, help trace back the individual that generated this data, or whomever this data was generated about. And then we have edge computing. Edge computing can also help a great deal in eliminating the problem to begin with, because if we have any edge devices like cameras or sensors or what have you, and we can deploy models on there, so data doesn't have to transfer all the way over to some database or to be read by some model someplace else. It just gets analyzed on the spot where that machine exists, and then the result is displayed, whatever the result might be. We would also have eliminated a huge risk of what to do with this data, how to transfer it, what to do before we transfer it, what kind of contracts do we need to implement with those analyzing this data for us, if it was, some third-party application, things like that. But again, we can have a lot of great ideas about how to be creative about this. It does not mean we can oversee the basics. We have to always go back to the basics. Starts with people first, do the awareness training for all people involved, and build on that.
Thank you, Francis. And yes, ensuring client confidentiality cannot be overlooked. Tara, circling back to you for our final individual question. With the pace at which Gen AI evolves, what strategies should organizations employ to keep their leaders and teams continuously learning and developing?
Great. Thank you. And Andy already touched upon this earlier. He said things are changing on a weekly, if not daily basis. So that is really the pace at which this technology is evolving, which is fantastic, but also it poses its own challenges, which is keeping up with the level that it is evolving, especially because naturally many people are averse to change. I have 3 points for that. And the first one, and we've touched upon this in our MIT class, which is, and I did mention before, about adaptability and agility to keep up with the changes. Charles Darwin said that it's not the strongest species nor the most intelligent species that survives, but the species that's most adaptable to changes that survives. And also from the class, Professor John Williams mentioned about the technique that is widely accepted and deployed, which is OODA. It was devised by Colonel John Boyd in the 20th century. He's an Air Force marshal, and so what that stands for is observe, orient, decide, and act. And this is specifically to stay ahead of competition and used during wartime, and it's very much applicable till date. And the second one is continuous learning. As we all know, learning never stops. It is a continuous process. And I've seen many executives, including our cohort, many leaders, senior leaders, all across the board, wanting to always learn and keep up with the technologies. But this is something that I would mention with caution, because executives also, if they're spending all their time learning, they wouldn't have time to implement and direct the organizations. So that's where I think it's important to leverage experts and have them as trusted advisors so that they can augment to those learnings while also making the right decisions at the right time. And the third one is creative destruction, which is sometimes we think we know or learnings changes and need to be adapted again as newer tools, newer methodologies come about. So we need to be able to unlearn and then adapt and relearn. So those would be my three.
Thank you, Tara. And yes, the importance of kind of fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptability cannot be overstated when navigating the Gen AI landscape. Now, I would like to pose a question to all our panelists. Considering the diverse insights we have discussed, how should MNCs measure the success of Gen AI integration within their organizations, and what metrics or indicators are indicative of progress and value generation? Let's start with Andy, and I will ask each of you to keep your response to about a minute and a half to ensure we hear from everyone.
Sorry, my dogs just barked very loudly as you were doing the intro. What's my short 1 minute? Now I know I'm eating into it.
You wanted me to rephrase the question?
Yes, could you please? Sorry. I had a very loud French bulldog yelling at me.
No worries. So considering the diverse insights we have discussed, how should MNCs measure the success of Gen AI integration within their organizations? And what metrics or indicators are the most indicative of progress and value generation?
So I think first and foremost, it's adoption by your workers. Being able to look and see. I think I put in the chat earlier that Microsoft has challenged its own employees to be customer zero for our Copilot initiatives, and so we as organizational teams are challenged to put it into practice in our daily lives. And there are dashboards I can go to right now, and I can look and see by business unit, by overall company, what the usage is looking like on sort of the daily, monthly, weekly average user. And that's good trending indications, particularly when you then tie it with community forums where internal groups can share knowledge around how they're using it. I know every time I go into a meeting and I show someone how I'm leveraging the meetings out of Teams to go then draft a white paper or create a series of slides to go explain something to others, they're learning new capabilities. They're learning new features. Likewise, I have learned similar capabilities from others. So we learn by doing it ourselves, but then we learn from seeing others do it as well. And being able to track and watch that progress helps us with the overall sort of rollout of it.
Thank you, Tara.
Yes, I'm going to add on to what Andy said. That's what I've seen in other organizations as well, which is to measure the adoption rate and see, based on all the learnings and all the trainings that has been deployed at the organization, how fast are the employees able to adapt to it and learn. And then I have 4 more points. And the first one is the business impact, because as always, we are measuring impact and in terms of revenue. If the employees are adapting it and using it, it would eventually reflect in the revenue. The third one, tying into the other points, is a productivity rate. How much how productive are employees? Because one of the main capabilities of the technology is to improve efficiency. So that should be reflected in the productivity. Tying these together is the fourth one, which is speed to market. Even with our solution that I led my team to build, we were able to do a full-fledged product and a platform, a fully functioning MVP in 48 hours. And I do not believe that would have been possible without leveraging AI and Gen AI. So that is speed to market. And the fifth one, and Francis touched upon this earlier, people always come first. And that's a core belief that I operate on. So the work-life balance, it would be reflected if there's more productivity, they have more time to do what they want to do, which would then trickle down to the work-life balance, and also the happiness rates from the employees.
Thank you, Tara. Ricardo?
In my case, I think that it was already spoken. I think that we have 3 measures. The first one is productivity augmentation. So how much it affects the performance, how faster or how better we could do some tasks using AI. So avoid using AI just per using AI. The number of learnings, this is something that we always measure. We always sit and talk about what we learn, how we can improve the next time. And this past learning is being really useful. We'll do real meetings to get into this. And the adoption rate, for sure. How many of these small experimentations are really able to adopt inside of the company? So these are the 3 KPIs that we have been using in the company nowadays.
Thank you. And Francis?
I endorse what has been said. I will only add one thing. Success is different to measure. Everybody will perceive it differently depending on who they are and what they want to do and what their organization looks like. One element of success that I think dearly of, it touches really close to home for me, is keeping the employees mentally engaged after the successful deployment. We are all too eager to give our job to some smart machine and let it do it, and then we kind of mentally resign from the tasks. That is very dangerous to human creativity. It's dangerous to critical thinking and on the job or away from the job. And I think one very important element of success is to deploy something that does help our team, but eventually at the end, we can still measure how engaged the team is to be the boss, not to just sit back and let the machine do the thinking or the task. That is a very big challenge. I don't have a clear answer how to measure this. It's very different, however direction you might look. But if you're considering that, at least considering it, I promise your organization is doing a lot better than it was doing yesterday.
Thank you. And as we hear our panelists concise yet very comprehensive views on measuring success, it is clear that Gen AI's impact is multidimensional. So let's open the floor to the questions from our audience. And this is the chance to seek further clarifications or perspectives. I have seen few, so perhaps I would just perhaps copy to the chat the one that was posted at the very beginning, and then I will try to fish out more as well that perhaps were I overlooked during the discussion. So I have a question. What is your view on the relevance of the employees and workers' unions to automation by AI? I think this is really an interesting introduction. And I don't know who will be taking. The floor is yours and the panelists.
I can
Okay.
take. Please go ahead.
Please, no, please, Tara, you first.
So yes, I did touch upon this earlier, and I believe that is due the reluctance of employees to the adapting AI comes from two facets. One is the fear of job loss, because the kind of impression that is being painted is that AI is going to take away the jobs. And I am a boomer. I'm not ignoring all the negative elements, but also I do see the positive elements of this technology, which is to increase the efficiency so that employees and even public's time can be better used in wherever they want to do it, whether it is creativity, be it focusing more time on child raising, or within the organizations to do more strategic work, because there's a lot of efficiency to be gained, specifically in technology organizations, be it any organization. And then the other thing is about the reluctance comes from people don't really like change. And it is, they are very comfortable where they are, and they work very hard to get where they are, so they sort of want to stay there. So it would be important to have a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach. From the top-down approach, to educate them and to share that this technology exists to help them, not to take away their jobs. Yes, certain jobs will go, it will be obsolete. But if they do learn and upskill and keep up, their jobs are going to be fine, maybe even better. And the bottom-up approach is to have one-on-one meetings and ensure that they have a path. Even with continuous learning, things are changing so fast. So from the leadership standpoint, to devise a mechanism to prioritize, and with the flood of information and available training free courses out there, to prioritize which ones to tackle first, attack first, and to keep up with their progress, help them where needed in the one-on-ones between managers and employees.
Thank you, Tara. Ricardo, any other thoughts that you would like to add?
Yeah, no, I think that for sure some jobs will be gone. No doubt that some jobs will be lost. But as we saw in the video from Andrew Ng, I think this the way that we talk his name. When people start to write, everything you need to read, you need to go to a priest, and this priest was the one sharing all the information. And now that everybody can read, you see the number of business that we could generate, the number of opportunities that could generate because of reading. So the same will happen with the artificial intelligence. Today, it's really difficult to understand what this causes in the society and the economy, but for sure, a lot of new business, a lot of new jobs will come with when it is spread out. But at this moment, for the people, it's complicated for them not to look at what they're losing, but look what they will come, because they cannot see this. Nobody can see this. But I think this is the balance today. Probably some jobs will really be affected, but in the medium, there is no more long term. I think the medium term, some more jobs will come, and this is life.
Thank you, Ricardo. And I see few questions, so I will just put the the background, by the time a company goes full-fledged using the Gen AI tools, it takes about 6 to 12 months, the technology change. So the question here is there or should there be a special workspaces labs for that within companies, or even further workspaces labs as a service completely secured for companies to keep experimenting? And I just leave the floor. Who would like to take on that?
I'll take a jump. I think, yeah, they're absolutely, I think the businesses that we see succeeding effectively are creating an internal division that is like an AI governance. And it is made up of multiple stakeholders across the teams, operational groups, security groups, IT groups. And that panel can look at both the places that AI is needed, the security that is required around the data that will be shared and used as part of that, and then a rollout plan. And then similarly, as upgrades and changes come to the workflow, that same governance group can assess where there are critical paths for elements to be rolled out. But having that sort of cohesive or holistic view across all of the different business units, because ultimately everybody within the organization will be impacted by some degree of the AI that is there, gives enough time and perspective to be able to make judgments about when something new needs to be adopted or when there's critical elements that need to be patched.
Thank you, Andy. And I just want to confirm if any other panelists would like to add any other remarks on that.
I'd like to add a note. There is not a need for everyone to be implementing the very last thing. You know, maybe if Microsoft comes up with something, Amazon will feel the pressure and they're going to have to rush into, you know, a competitive offer like that. But if we are taking the perspective of our customers or our users or, you know, whoever we are addressing with our products and services, they will probably not feel the 0.2% performance difference between last month's model and next week's model. We can very well invest in the core of the technology. You know, by all means, create that chatbot that helps HR with whatever they're looking for. But if a new model comes up next week, the model you're already using is probably doing a pretty good job. So you can give yourself some time to know how is that going, in which direction is the technology changing. You don't feel the pressure to implement the very last thing every single time it's out
there. Thank you, Francis. And I do have one question regarding more pragmatic nature and actually learning. So in any of your organizations, have you witnessed an adaptation of learning on job or learning in the flow using Gen AI? And if yes, what is your impression on its effectiveness and maturity so far?
We've implemented a few tutors in a sense. Each is specialized in one of the tools that we use. I'll give an example, PowerShell, because it's universal. I cannot go into other examples, but we have created these tutors, these domain experts, and it makes, you know, a fresh recruit perform at the level of somebody who's had 2 years experience or 10 years experience, depending. They work very well. Our experience has been limited to very narrow implementations. We are trying to implement things in a way that we can oversee the details, we can evaluate them in a very critical eye. So I don't have any large scale implementations, but those small implementations topically have worked really, really well. And we do feel that the team is performing a lot better on individually than whatever they could have done.
Thank you, Francis. And Ricardo, Tara, anything to add? Or Andy?
I can add. So I have observed it in a few different organizations. And rightly so, everybody has realized the value of this technology and announced pretty huge investments in the order of several $billion between some of the big fours and management consulting firms and many organizations. So what I have observed is that there is definitely a lot of interest in learning and signing up for all the courses and trainings that are available, and trying to use it on a day-to-day basis. And I do play the evangelist role in public, in some Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, and my observation is that people are using it. Even sometimes they use it for tapping into the creative side of fantasy arts, from other planets and such. And many are curious and they ask, oh, this is how much I've used it. How can I use it better? What am I doing not right? So definitely there's a lot of curiosity. There's a lot of interest on the job within organizations from the employee side and also on the public side. And I think that is the great nature of this technology. It's not restricted just to the technical users. It's accessible to both technical and non-technical users.
Thank you, Tara. And I have another question, and actually it asked to switch our focus a little bit to a public space even more, and the question about the universal access. How can we ensure that Gen AI benefits the largest number of people globally as possible? What can we do to try be sure that it is not only a tool used by giants and corporations, and also the private enterprise to generate financial growth, like feeding greater capital concentration. So any thoughts on uses on Gen AI in the public and a non-profit sector here?
If I may disagree with the premise, it is not like that at the moment. There are huge communities of open source everything. I will mention Hugging Face. They are a giant in the space at the moment. Anyone can see how the model is built. So it's kind of, democracy is there. You can see how the model is built and you can do whatever you want to it. You can deploy it locally. And the entry barrier is very, very low at the moment. If you just check LinkedIn vacancies, you'll find hundreds of thousands of prompt engineers. And I will trust that they are proficient prompt engineers, but this field did not exist last year. So it didn't take a very long time for people to pick up this technology and kind of democratize it. Anyone in any place of the planet with a laptop can build their own model right now. It's not going to compete with ChatGPT, I know, but it's not a dictatorship as it stands. There's a huge space for giants to be built with the open source technology if we're not going to mention anything else.
Andy has a point he in the chat. I want to add to what Francis said. It is true that I also believe that the reason that OpenAI exploded to this extent is because they made it open source. It certainly is accessible to everybody alike, and the cost is not prohibitive. Even if you want to access some of the advanced features. And I also talk a lot about this tool, Hagen, which is the video generation tool. The cost, the first tier is under $30 per month, which is not very prohibitive at all, whether it is nonprofits or public. So one thing is to, I believe, that's why I play the evangelist role, is to spread it as the awareness to as many people, be it nonprofits, for-profits, general public, to make it more and more accessible. And I'm also seeing some of the experts who've been in this research working for some of the giants who pretty much do a service. You see their LinkedIn posts. They organized the free training to create a very meaningful and practical learning path. So because there's an overwhelming amount of information out there.
Yeah, on my side, I think that when talking about centralization, decentralization, I see the big guys providing the tools to democratize everything, because we see that people are starting to use it. I agree with Francis. So we see, for example, in France, I saw one article telling that they were starting to use AI to take care of bullying for teenagers. Our project, also on MIT, is also to take care of bullying. It's about to take care of bullying damaged teenagers in Colombia. So I think that this kind of initiatives will start to come as soon as this technology started to be easy and all the training is available. We see all the big companies providing training, let's say, for free. So a lot of people will have access to this kind of information. And I'm sure that good part of this solutions that will come will drive also this part of social impact that will change the world and make not only seek for money, but also seeking for making people's life better.
Thank you, Ricardo. And well, we are perfect on the timing as well. So I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our panelists and attendees for this thought-provoking discussion. And before we will close, I just want to check if there's any last words or key takeaways from our panelists.
If I may.
If not, just if there are any other last-minute comments or anything that we would like to add as we are closing.
I would like to share a story. You know, when electricity was invented, we didn't really have fridges and washing machines and TVs. We had absolutely no use for it in the bigger perspective of how we lived. We had no idea what to do with electricity. But look what it did. It did change the job of everyone, right? It did change the job of a carpenter, but we still need carpenters. I'm sure a carpenter without power tools cannot survive in this age, but the carpenter did not lose his job because of electricity. But artificial intelligence in general, we know what to do with it. We have a good use for it before we even invent it. We've been writing science fiction since ever. And now that the dam has broke, we are going to come up with all sorts of ideas what to do with this technology. It is going to revolutionize everything, but it's not going to replace it. There will always be a job for the human. But I think a job for the human who is proficient at this technology, just like a job for the carpenter who does use electricity, or for the, you can't imagine a taxi on horses, right? You do need the engine. We cannot, you know, overcome that invention. But a driver is still a driver, and we still need that. And then anything else is probably going to be close to this. So please don't be scared of this technology. Don't think it's your competition. It's your empowerment. You are your own competition if you don't take that empowerment, if you don't accept this new tool that is really augmenting what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. And on that note, I would like to close the panel and our discussion. I also would like to again thank you, all of you who attended and joined us. Thank you.